working in the emergency then, and I just remember getting a phone call from one of the unit coordinators that was in the trauma room, and she just called me on the phone and said that there was a 20-year-old girl in the trauma room that was in very critical condition, and I needed to go there fast. So I went to the trauma room, and of course we tried to find ID. You know, that's what we do when somebody's brought in, can't, you know, answer questions. So we just look through her things, and one of the ID, she had a picture ID from McGill University. So she was a faculty of arts. One of our responsibilities in the emergency as social workers is to contact families. It was Lauren's father that answered, and then her mother got on the phone as well. So both of them were on the phone, and I just kept them on, and I told them that I would let them speak to the doctor that was looking after Lauren.
It was about midday when I was called. Lauren had collapsed quite suddenly, just coming into her apartment building, not far from the hospital, walking home from doing a bit of grocery shopping. And she had had a cardiac arrest, so that means her heart had stopped, and she was resuscitated in the emergency room. It's never completely clear how much time in such a situation has elapsed that the heart's been stopped, because one never knows how much time the person might have been there before they were found. And so we were able to, the team in the emergency room was able to revive her heart and get her heart going, enough for us to be able to get into a higher level of testing and find out what was wrong.
We didn't know at that point whether she was going to survive or not, but so just had to keep them on the phone, and I just remember it was very, you know, it's a very emotional thing. They want to know, and they want to know fast, and they want to know what has happened, which is normal. And the doctor was actually able to give them, to provide information, to ask for a medical history as well.
When I started that day, when I heard that there was a girl from McGill who's here and she's not doing well, I think my heart stopped, because my daughter studied at McGill, and she was studying at McGill at that time. And then I think I had this moment of, oh my God. So I went in the room and I saw it was Lauren, but it was still very sad, because you think, okay, it's not my daughter, but it's somebody else's daughter. You never plan this. Your kids are not supposed to get sick, and your kids are not supposed to leave before you.
It was one of our patients, a very young woman who suffered a catastrophic sudden illness. She was a student, and her family came from out of town, and it struck a chord with Dr. Hornstein. And I can tell you, I'm not sure why that patient struck a chord with Dr. Hornstein, because I could tell you a catastrophic story or a terrible story or almost every day in the ICU. But I think that story was symbolic of just out of the blue, a young individual who was struck suddenly down, and the impact that had on family, and raised some of those issues of the need that families have in that very difficult time.
Blood flow is in white. This is the blood flowing in white. Mm-hmm. And what's dark is the blood clot stopping the flow. So there's no flow going in this whole side here. Almost no flow through any of these vessels. You can see some and none there. And that's what did it. Before, but when Bita started to work here one day, I noticed her seemingly paying some guy. Looked at, and I asked her, and she said it was a taxi driver. And she said, "Oh well, this person's family member needed to come from somewhere far and didn't have a way, and I sent a taxi, and I paid for the taxi." And I thought, "Oh, that's great. You know how do you get reimbursed for that?" And she just showed me her MasterCard, and she said, "It's my Master." And I said, "What do you mean? You pay for this yourself?"
I said, "Oh, I'll pay it. It's not a big thing. It can be $30, $40. But I think it's just normal. You see somebody in distress and you want to go on and help."
So that stayed in my mind also. And sometime later I asked her, I recall asking her, well, what kind of things would you, give me a wish list, I think is what I said, is give me a wish list. What would you do if you had a little bit of money to support that kind of thing that I saw you doing the other day? What would you do?
My wish list is not, I don't want very fancy stuff, but it can be just water or just a little bit of food, the things that we can keep it here, or Kleenex box, or things like that, simple things. We went on and on about this, and he started talking to us about this Lauren Alexander and the foundation and the things that he wanted to do, and so it started by that.
And I went, wow, that's really cool. You know, if maybe if we had a kind of small petty cash fund around that would reimburse these kinds of things, we could then, you know, offer small gestures that are caring gestures to people that need them. And that's where the idea came from. Why Lauren Alexander? I will be the first to admit that this was an event very close to home for me personally. I don't seek to understand why more than just the fact that it was a human drama, that every human drama is you know, you can't value one more than another, or one event, or one death, one tragedy. There's no value system to them. But, you know, I've heard people talking over the last few days, and you asked the question, how do you not take it home? Who says you don't take it home? You take it home. And you need to take it home, and it's not whether you take it home or not that matters, it's how you manage it when you take it home. And so I took this home, and it stayed with me. And I remember after Lauren died, right here, staying in the room with her for quite a long time with Judy, our nurse who was with me at the time, after her parents had left, and I just couldn't leave the room, it's never happened to me before. And I remember just thinking, this can't be all, you know. And yes, I could have had that thought a million other times, but I had it there. And so it came together at some point in my mind, just maybe that if her parents would let me use her name, really that's all I wanted to do, was use her name, and that it would keep her spirit, it wouldn't keep her alive, but it would keep her spirit alive if her name was associated with something meaningful that I wanted to do. I didn't have an idea how close it was to something that she would have gone, yeah, okay, that's good, I would have done that. I do know that now.
One of the things we can do when, unfortunately, the patient passed away, we can ask the family to do a little memory box. And we use this box, and they can go home with them. You can put whatever you want in them. It can be a picture, can be a little piece of hair, or anything makes you remember the good days that you have with your loved ones. And this way it will help them to go home, but not empty-handed.
This foundation, I think, is beautiful because it will help families that are going through also, you know, very difficult loss and very difficult situation. It's beautiful to see how, you know, people just got together like this to support this foundation, to participate, you know, either through singing, the band, and, you know, just going to the concert, wanting to meet her parents. It's amazing, you know, that through this, you know, very difficult, you know, very, you know, tragic loss, that there was, you know, there were people there that, you know, looked after her, cared for her. I hope that that's, you know, comforting for them to see that.
That takes us to 7:43, and there's a doctor in the house. Dr. Hornstein is here from the Montreal General Hospital. Dr. Hornstein is a guitar player and a doctor. Are you a guitar player first and then a doctor? Or
Well,
the
I
other
guess
way?
in temporal sequence, probably.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Tell us about the fund, and then we'll talk about the event.
Okay, well, the intensive care unit it's a very tough environment. And as I said, we're blessed with people that are just tremendous at all levels of of what they do. And yet, despite that, because of all the technology and the fact that people are often not conscious and that we have to control comings and goings of family members, it's a very difficult place to be. And as all the efforts are directed at the patient and doing what you need to do at a frantic pace, it's often easy to not be thinking a lot about what's going on in the waiting room. And for a long time, I've wanted to pay attention to that and give as much as attention to the family members as we can. And yet the infrastructure to support that wasn't really there. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. It just takes a willingness to help.
So you guys are going to play some rock and roll? Is that the deal?
You bet. Oh, yeah, we can. Like
Tell
I said
people
before,
what they're in for if they go.
it's going to be a great show. There's 3 great bands that are going to play. Mine is
pretty
straight up classic rock.
Okay.
And Sonia Ball is going to be there with Brian Monty and going to play a smashing soul set for us. And my friend Freddie Pensarini are going to play some fusion jazz and blues with Nick Piazza, who's a cardiologist.
Thank you, Doctor.
A pleasure. Thanks
Pleasure
for
to
having
meet you.
us.
Have fun. What a great idea and a great charity.
We met her in the first semester.
Within like the first few days of moving to Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a big part of our group. I had a couple classes with her. We were in very different programs, but occasionally overlapped. I remember she pre-drank for our last Psychology 100 class. That was a good moment.
Our Russian class too. She's all about the habit.
Yeah. So we had a few classes together. It was educational.
But she loved music. She played piano, guitar, clarinet, sang.
Yeah.
And so sort of music has been one of the ways for us to, I don't know, connect, remember, celebrate her.
One day I got home from school and my mom told me that her boss, Dr. Hornstein, was starting a fundraiser on Lauren Alexander, and I thought, I saw the logo for it, and I thought, well, maybe I can make a rainbow loom butterfly out of it. So I do feel it when I think about it, I feel bad that she unfortunately didn't make it, but I know that so many people care that she didn't make it, so I don't feel as bad.
This next song is dedicated to all the people that came tonight to help, because that's what tonight is all about. And so I think the lyrics to this next and our last song is appropriate for tonight. This is A Little Help from My Friends.
Just stand up and walk out on me. Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song. I will try not to sing it out of key. Oh, baby, I get my face. Don't you hear? I'm going my face. Oh, man, turn on your eyes.
want you to grab that ribbon, Michael this one. 1, 2, 3. So I'd like to sign. Every time you miss her, you can wrap yourself with her.
It was a little over a year ago that we lost Lauren here in Montreal. But we lost our star, but we gained so many friends. It's unbelievable how the community of Montreal, the McGill community, the Montreal General Hospital community, has pulled together to put such a wonderful, wonderful event together for such a wonderful cause. And Jane and I just thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, Montreal. And thank you.
I think the whole situation, the way it was unfair, and it was not supposed to happen. She didn't deserve this. And the whole thing, it affects you. And then thinking that it's how fragile the life is, that at any moment, something horrible like this can happen. And I think it gives me, and I think a lot of us, this sense of, you know what, we never leave home without saying, I love you to everybody in the house.
It's a beautiful thing that's being done, you know? It's, yeah.
Life is a journey, and we're all on our own path. The universe takes us by the hand and guides us on our path. We may not always understand why this path takes certain directions, or why at times it comes to an abrupt end. The beauty of it all is that we get the chance to travel through life. Our paths can intersect and even run parallel for a time, but we're eventually led in different directions. I'm happy that my path crossed yours, and I'm profoundly sorry for your loss. Keep traveling bravely. My heart is with you. Lauren Alexander, October 19, 2012.